Well, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I am used to a little bit better than that.
Morning!
That's better. I'm still so tied to law enforcement, I still look at license plates. I just want you to know that. Keep track of those things. So I just retired in May. A little over 27 years of law enforcement.
Thank you for serving.
Thank you so much. And I oftentimes say, and I'm going to be very brief here, you've heard the heart of this issue, and it's just a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us to be here. But I oftentimes have said, as law enforcement, 28 years of doing that, I've had the opportunity to do just about everything you can do in law enforcement. And that's not a sign of skill or talent. That's a sign of getting old. I just want to make that clear. But I've worked on patrol. I've done all the investigations you can do, homicide, terrorism investigations, all those kind of things that you can think about. I said the only thing that I haven't had the opportunity to do is be a canine officer. I never had a dog. Well, I have a dog. He just happens to be worthless. And I never had a canine. And, so I've done just about everything else that you possibly can do in law enforcement. And again, it's just because of longevity. They finally say, hey, what can we stick you in to do? But the last several years, I dedicated the end of my career to fighting human trafficking. And so I served as I headed up our human trafficking unit for the Pasco Sheriff's Office as the commander of the human trafficking unit there. I served on, and I still do serve on, the Attorney General's board for fighting human trafficking. It's called the Florida Alliance to End Human Trafficking, which the Attorney General is over. So I serve on that board and serve on several boards and task forces in this area and so on and so forth. So my life has really been involved in ending human trafficking, because out of all the things that I've done and had the privilege of doing in law enforcement, probably the most despicable, and I'm talking about all of them because I was a commander of a narcotics task force team and worked undercover and, you name it, I've had that opportunity to do. But the most despicable and the most degrading criminal activity that I have ever investigated has been human trafficking. And so when we talk about human trafficking, one of the things that I oftentimes see, and I know it's not in this room, but people just don't have a clue how much of that is going on around us. Both sex trafficking and labor trafficking, that's happening all around us. In my years of doing this, which has been several years, 12 years or so of working specifically in the human trafficking area of Pasco County and the Tampa Bay area at large, and across the state at times, what I have found is that people don't really understand what's really happening around us, how broken these people really are. They're some of the most broken people I have ever encountered. And I'll talk to you about in a minute about some of those things that you see on a first-hand basis when you're working this, and you're going through the door and you're walking into the homes of these broken people. But I have to tell you that in this area, when you talk about human trafficking, and most people don't realize how deep and how dark and how evil that crime really is. What most people don't understand is in the Tampa Bay area, the most people that we're rescuing out of human trafficking are our own kids. It's not just a problem over there. These are our own kids, runaways, throwaways, as they call them. I hate that term.
Yes.
But they're kids that are our kids that are out on the street and they're being trafficked. The average age in this area that we rescue is 13. Not 25, not 35, not 45. The average age in this area is 13. Nationally, it's 12 to 15, so we fall right into that range. 13 years of age. People ask me oftentimes, they'll say, well, what's the youngest victim that you personally? Well, the youngest victim that I personally have been involved in and worked on the rescue and our team rescued was 8 years old.
8 years old. I know.
A little 8-year-old girl. Now, I have PTSD, and it's because of these images that I can't shake.
Wow.
I'm up at night, the nightmares, the shakes, and these are the images I can't get out of my head. Little 8-year-old girl who's pimped out by her 2 uncles.
Oh.
Men that should be protecting her are instead setting her up for little birthday dates, dressing her up to be savaged by men that come in and abuse her and exploit her. And I won't go into the details, but it's the brokenness of when I put my arms around that little girl and looked into those hollow eyes of one who is broken beyond measure. It's the 12-year-old boy that I stood in the emergency room. And when I looked at his little bed, you could see the red where he had been bleeding from being brutalized. It's those that are so broken that you wonder how they can ever recover. How can someone who has experienced that type of brutality and trauma, how can they possibly ever have hope? And the truth is, their hope really does come from the Creator who created them in His own image.
Yes.
That's right.
Right before I came here today, I was on a campus, and this campus is a safe campus where little girls who have been sex trafficked are put on this campus. It's not very many miles from where you're sitting. It's undisclosed and confidential for obvious reasons. But I was on that campus, a campus that's run by Bridging Freedom. And when I was leaving that campus, on that campus are little girls who are living in that house, those houses that are on that campus. And they're getting wraparound services and they're getting loved on. They're getting education that they've missed. Little girls. And I was coming off that campus and I just pulled over to the side while I was still on the campus, and I reached down from the truck that I was in and stepped out of the truck and walked over to the edge. And I went over to the edge and I pulled this off the ground. If you can see it, you know what it is. It's an acorn. That's what it is. It's ugly. Most people won't take this. You can't sell it. Nobody's going to buy this acorn from you. Most people find these to be nuisance. It's just a nut. It's got a hard shell to it. It's just a little piece that you can hold between 2 fingers. It's just a common, broken piece of material. It's an acorn. But what you don't see is what the Creator sees in this.
That's right.
Because when the Creator looks at this, He sees a 148-foot tall tree
Of course.
that has a 120-foot circumference.
Wow.
He sees that in this worthless nut to most of us that we just trample underfoot, He sees a dining room table. He sees a desk. He sees a house that can be built from the material that's inside of this. He sees that this can live 700 to 1,000 years, and the oldest one in Louisiana is 1,500 years. And in those 1,500 years, it has shed 10 million more of these acorns. 10 million, and it's all in this worthless nut. What most people don't see when they see those little girls on that campus is they don't see what God sees in them.
That's right.
One of the things that I did as the head of our human trafficking unit is we hit the strip clubs really hard. My goal, and I'll be honest with you, and I'm not supposed to say things like this because I get sued all the time for saying things, and I'm just too blunt. I understand that. Got way too much copying. I just say it. I'm not politically correct. I'll say that right now. I know this is on film, and so it's going to go around, and there's going to be people saying, "That guy's not." No, I'm not politically correct.
Amen.
They would go to. My goal was to shut every one of them down.
Amen.
That was my goal. We got about half of them before I retired.
Praise God.
I'm very happy about that. But I'll never forget, we would do, I call them raids, where we would go in and really hit the club and we would hit them hard. And it's amazing what would happen when my group would go in our uniforms and be marked units all around the strip club. It had a way of just emptying them out. The business really kind of took a hit for that day. And I was okay with that. I was all right with that. I took a group of our politicians with me. because I wanted them to see that's not just a normal business there. It's not just a business that's sitting on the side of the road. It's not harmless fun. I want you to see what really goes on in there because I need your help in changing that environment. So I took, and I'll tell you who they were. I'm not, I don't know if they really want me to, but I'll tell you because again, I'm not politically correct. So I took our newly elected state senator from this area, Danny Burgess, went with me. He was a state representative at the time. I took Amber Mariano, who is a state representative over the Hudson area, good friend of mine. I took her dad, which was kind of weird, Jack Mariano, who was a county commissioner, so I had a dad and a daughter in the strip club with me. I took Wilton Simpson, who will be president of the state senate, the Florida Senate, coming up this next session. He was with me. And I took Lauren Book. Lauren Book is a senator out of the Miami area. Wonderful lady, tremendous lady. I took them with me. I said, you guys are going to go with me. So we loaded them up in police cars, and we took them. We hit one of them on the far north side of the county, up on US 19. And we walked in, and I would have the guys to go in and kind of secure the facility, and then I would walk in with the politicians, with our legislators, and they would walk in with me. So we walked into this club on the far north side of, well, I'll tell you, it's Icon. So we walked into Icon, and when we walked into the strip club, I immediately went, because we had passed legislation that required to put signage up, so that gave me the ability to walk all the way through the club and look for that signage. So it had to be in restrooms, dressing rooms, every bathroom stall had to have a human trafficking sign, and guess who in that legislation, I told them, who wants to inspect that? Me. I want the sheriff's office and code enforcement to be able to inspect that. So we had the ability, the right to go all the way through the club without announcing ourselves, which was awesome. And so I walked through, went to the dressing room, and when I did, there was a young lady there, and she jerked her head up off the desk, and she had just snorted a line of coke. And so her eyes are blitzed, and she's looking at me, and that stunned look of a uniform standing in the dressing room. And she was like, oh no, and you could see the look come over her face. While I was there kind of talking to her, just beginning the engagement process with that young lady to kind of find out what her story was, I get a tap on my shoulder and they say, Alan, you need to come see this. And so I walked out of that room and walked down where the VIP rooms are. It's a hallway and it's dark, and you got the little blue lights and the red lights going, and it's disgusting. The smells are horrible. And I'm walking down that VIP, pull back the curtain, and the act of prostitution is happening right there. So on that couch, in that VIP room, is the very act of prostitution. Of course, the young lady jumps off the guy jumps up, and he's trying to buckle his pants and get himself back together, and she's there, and she's trying to straighten out the little outfit that she had on. Wasn't much there, but she was trying to straighten it out because the police are here. They asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I want you to arrest him. Because I'm telling you straight up, I'm sick of buyers.
Amen. Amen.
Buyers are absolutely driving the demand. If they wouldn't put the money out there, you wouldn't have the trafficking going on. Amen. So I said, it's time we change that. Buyers should not get a misdemeanor and a notice to appear in court and be able to shield themselves under anonymity as a John. They're not a John, they're a rapist.
Yeah.
Amen.
Come on.
Well, that don't go over very well, but it's the truth anyhow. So I said, you arrest him. And I said, when you do, I want you to walk him 2 or 3 times around the stage. I want everybody to see it. I want them to see it well.
Good.
I was kind of kidding, but I found out later, I think they walked him 4 or 5 times. And put him in the vehicle, and he took the ride to the county jail. What are you going to do with her? I don't know yet. So I began to talk to her. She began to weep. Standing in this VIP room with little blue lights, red lights flashing, makeup, little stripper outfit on. She begins to weep. She said, hey, Popo, I know you're going to take me to jail. I've been to jail many times. I've got 30 charges on my record, and she did. She had 31 record, 31 charges. She said, I know I'm going to her jail. I've been there before. But she said, can I ask you to do something for me? Sure. She said, can I show you something? And I said, absolutely. She picked up her phone and turned on the screen and turned it around to me, and on that screen was what looked to be a little 2-year-old and maybe a little 3-year-old boy and girl. And she said, "These are my kids." She said, "The only thing I ask is please don't tell them what I do." And I thought to myself, my heart began to break. Because I thought to myself, she's not proud of this. This isn't really a choice. She's not coming home to her kids and saying, "Hey, guess what Mommy did all night last night?" Please don't tell them what I do. My heart began to break. Now, I want you to get this. I'm tacked up. I got an outer carrier vest on. I've got handguns. I've got asp-batons. I've got my pepper. I've got, tasers. All of this is geared up. And here is a geared up dude standing in this strip club. And I begin to just be broken. I'll never forget, she had a cold that day. And you could tell because she had snot running out of her nose. Yeah. And it was running down to the corner of her mouth. And she's looking at me with tears flowing, head cold. "Please don't tell them what I do." And I said, "Ma'am, why are you doing this?" And she said to me, she said, "What else can I do? No college will accept me. I can't even get into an apartment because when they run my background, they won't rent to me. What else can I do?" Then I heard words that will haunt me the rest of my life. She said, "Hey, nobody sees me." I heard the cry out of a human soul. Probably one of the worst cries that a human can make. I'm walking through this world, I'm breathing, I'm eating food, I'm sleeping, but nobody sees me. Nobody cares about me. Nobody sees me. I felt a tap on my shoulder and I looked over and it was Lauren Book, Senator Book. She said, "Hey, Alan, can I hug her?" I said, "Absolutely." I kind of stepped over to the side. Little Lauren Book, if you know her, little petite young lady. She walked around me. She grabbed a hold of that, and I'm going to use that, stripper. And I said, as long as I live, I'll never forget that day in a VIP room of a strip club. I saw a senator and a stripper hugging on each other, crying. As just two human beings that were loving each other. And I thought to myself, nobody sees me. Has it been that we in society have become so good at putting labels on people? Like bumper stickers, we put them on people's lives. Whore, prostitute, slut, stripper. Until finally all we see is a label. And nobody sees me. Nobody. One thing I know is I'm standing with a group of people right now who sees them. Who sees them, not for what they do, but for who they've been created to be.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jesus.
You see them.
Amen.
And when you see her today, because it looked like I arrested her that day. She had handcuffs because her pimp was set out in the strip club. And if it looked like she was cooperating with us, she was going to get the beat down. So it looked like she got arrested, but instead of going to jail, we turned her over to some folks that loved on her.
Hallelujah.
And she began to walk out of that life, knowing that you are more than a label. You are who God has created you to be. And somebody still sees you.
Oh, God.
So whether you're the woman at the well or Zacchaeus up in a tree or whether you're a blind Bartimaeus, somebody sees you. See them, because when you see them, they start their priceless journey.
Amen.